and this is just a mixtape.
Hold up, wait a minute.
Holy Spirit, dwell in me.
Oh.
Sometimes it takes these grandiose things for people to believe that there's a higher being or a higher power. But for me, it was more of the retrospect and the hindsight that the Father enabled in me to see that He's been in my life the entire time. And all these moments to where I tried to pariah myself and isolate myself away from God and away from people helping me and was causing myself to be at rock bottom, to where I was sulking and I was playing into this victimhood mentality, to where I felt that I was unique in a certain type of way, that my life and the traumas that I was enduring was so unique that no one in the world could understand it. And it took me actually venturing out, and now that I'm at this age of 32 and been blessed to be there, because a lot of the time, a lot of my friends, a lot of the mates, a lot of the people that I care about didn't make it to this age. And that also is what helped me realize that God is real. You see, now I'm able to see that God's hands are in everything that we do. He is omnipresent. He is everywhere. He is in everything. He is the living God. And what the Bible talks about is pure truth, because I've seen it not only in my life but in the lives that play out before me, and who I meet, who I've known, who I'm going to meet. It took me to see why marriage is special, why it's God ordained, and if it's not ordained by God, how it could fail. It took me why it's so important to have a two-parent household where a mother and father and the man is following God. For me, in my own experience of having a child and not being able to be in her life, and not being able to be a father to her, but to be a dad. And that brokenness that I created by not listening and running away and wanting to partake and make the choice of sinning and not doing it the right way, I am now having to bear the repercussions of that by not being able to be in my daughter's life, and I love her dearly. I also got to see what vengeance can do, and how God tells us that vengeance is for Him. But when we are to go out there and we are to seek vengeance, and we are to go and do things on our own, and we don't understand the complexity of God, but it's way beyond us. I've seen so many of my cousins and my friends go out there and take it upon themselves to get back, and the repercussions and the consequences that come from that are dire. And not only are you getting the get back, but it's taking you away from the family. Now those two families that are hurt, that are full of sorrow. I think it took so many of the people being cast out and dying around me for me to finally wake up. Of all the things that I was doing, and thinking oh, I got lucky, or oh, I skimmed by, I didn't get noticed. It was God giving me these opportunities to wake up, to follow Him, to not keep going down the path that leads to destruction, because I was seeing that God gave me the gift that He gives so many of us of empathy, to be able to put yourself into other people's shoes. So I didn't have to learn in certain cases the hard way, because I had a dad, or I had an uncle, or I had a cousin or a close mate of mine experience jail or death because of they chose to do this or they chose to do that. Or so a lot of the time I had to learn through secondhand empathy, if that's a thing, to where I didn't have to put myself in that situation to learn from it. God was able to give me that wherewithal through seeing it through someone else's perspective, by taking myself outside of myself and being like, hey, if you do this, this is potentially what can happen, or this is where you can end up. And like I said, it's just a road that leads nowhere. You see, we continue to push these boundaries where there aren't any, and we want to live this life of like doing what we want, and for a while it feels good. It feeds our flesh. It's this insatiableness that's in all of us, that we want what we want. But when you continue to push these boundaries, and continue to push what you want, you see how it destroys you. You see the demise. You see that when there's no boundaries, where there's no rules, where there's no regulation, where there's no course of action or consequence, that you can go too far. And that eventually God will slow you down in one way or the other. And like I said, that power of retrospect and seeing things and being able to have this wisdom develop and to see things play out in my life is such a grateful gift that I'm so appreciative of. God is very real. And like I said, sometimes it takes people to see these grandiose things. They want it to be theatrical. They want it to be like the movies. They want some type of vision, and they want the razzle dazzle, when they're ignoring the signs that are right in front of them. And I've been guilty of that. We all are guilty of that. Sometimes God is giving us exactly what we're asking for, but it's not in a way that we expected. God answers us, and God gives us exactly what we ask for. And when we choose to go our own way, then the adversary, that's when he seeps in, and he doesn't lie to us. He deceives us, and he pulls on that deception. And he is that wolves in sheep's clothing, and he makes us believe that he is this angel of light, and a lot of us fall victim to following that, to these little gods. But Elohim, Yahweh, he tells us that even these little gods will pay for causing his creation to turn opposite way. It's our choice, brothers and sisters. It is our choice if we want to follow God or not. And once you have this faith, once you come to know that Jesus is the truth, the way, and the life, you then again have this choice, because our sins were paid for. He suffered a gruesome a death where he showed, even though he was getting beat down and had these marks, and his flesh was showing, he showed so much strength and so much courage in that. Because how many of us could do that? No one. None of us could carry the cross, the burden. None of us can carry our crosses. None of us can carry the burdens. None of us could endure any of the gruesome things that Jesus did when he was crucified. None of us. And that's why God loved us so much that he paid the price, the ultimate price for us. He has the docket. He has the receipt. It's a beautiful thing. It's a perplexing thing that our God loved us so much. And we have to get back to evangelizing. We have to get back to turning our brothers and sisters towards him, and evangelizing, and being the light and being the salt of the earth. Our God is patient, but our time is not infinite. And a lot of the times we fall under this impression that it is, and it's not. Wins.